All right, here we go. We're live. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Monday. This is The Slate. We are a DraftKings show. Thanks for finding us. We are available in the DraftKings YouTube page. Also, if you're watching us, DraftKings Twitch and over on DK Nation on the Twitter side. Brendan Glasheen, Jeff Ulrich. We were not with you last Monday with Memorial Day, so good to have you with us. This time of year, Jeff, as we know, the calendar kind of shrinks, but the stage is big with the Cup final. We got the NBA Finals underway, of course. Game 2 was last night, but we'll look into the Cup final. Panthers Golden Knights, Game 2 this evening in Las Vegas, and then we'll look ahead to the RBC Heritage, which is going down this week. RBC Canadian Open is this week. So by the way, I'm doing my show prep here, scrolling through the old Twitter and other stuff, and Victor Hovland, nice hit last week.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, no, it was a good week. For sure. Definitely Vic was well overdue for a win. Not well overdue, but I mean, he was been progressing just really nicely since the start of the year. The ball striking's always there with him. Again, I talked about it this morning. You just look at all the young players we have, like a lot of guys have been going up and downs, Cameron Young, Colin Morikawa, but Vic has been really solid pretty much from the get-go. Was giving it a really good go in the majors. He just knew at some point he looked like he was ready to break through. So, the number wasn't huge or anything, 20, 22 to 1, but again, just really felt like he was ready to get it done. So tough course, probably helped a little bit, but certainly it was a crazy Sunday. And yeah, man, nice to get a guy over the finish line. That's for sure.
Yeah. 22 to 1. Nice hit to get back in the back of the swing here in the PGA season. So we'll get to the RBC Canadian Open later on. Jeff's got his golf cheat sheet posted over at dknation.draftkings.com. Game 2, Cup final. We'll start there with Panthers, Golden Knights. Golden Knights cruise. It was a 2-2 game going to the third. These games are they can go one way or the other, as we know at this point in the year. But Golden Knights prevail. They took over, some goals at the end there in the third. As expected, Golden Knights are favored in Game 2 at -140, Florida +120. First off, just because we haven't spoken, what'd you make of Game 1, and how does that factor into your analysis for Game 2?
Yeah, no, Game 1 was, it went pretty much the way I thought it was. It was going to be close. It was close. I know the final score 4-2, whatever, but, Vegas got out to, Panthers got out to a lead. Vegas got out to a 2-1 lead, and then, the Panthers just fought back. It was just a back and forth game. No one really pulled away. Even Vegas, obviously, like late in the game, they got a 2-goal lead, but was never more than a 1-goal lead at any point. I'm not that shocked that it played out like that. Vegas is just a very opportunistic team, and they got a few chances late in the game, and they just took advantage. So, at the same time, it's nothing here to say that I necessarily want to start, jumping on Vegas at -140 or on the puck line. It's interesting because just looking at how the public is moving, the Vegas puck line is a pretty popular bet right now, which again, they covered in Game 1, but it was what you call a weak cover, it was 3-2. The game easily could have been tied or gone to overtime. The Panthers could have certainly been up 3-2. They had a lead at one point in the game. So not sure why everyone is necessarily hot and bothered to get on the puck line bet. I think this is going to be another close game. And if anything, I would be jumping on the Panthers here. If you look at the handle too, about 50% of the 50-50 of the bets on the money line. It's about 50-50 what I'm trying to say. But there is more of the handle on the Panthers money line. It makes sense to me. Got a veteran goalie in Bobrovsky. I think he can up his game a little bit. And the Panthers at times, really kind of just, they dominated for a little bit of stretches. And again, the Panthers came out quick. I think that you're going to see a rebound here. I like the Panthers on the money line again. Certainly expecting a close series no matter what happens tonight. I think Florida will bounce back pretty hard at home, even if they lose here. But certainly one they need. And I think they're going to get it. I really do. So if anything, too, with the total, I would probably be looking to go under again. But I like just playing straight up, just play the Panthers. The line's moved a little bit more in our favor now. I think it was +105 to close in Game 1. Now it's +120. Again, with the Panthers really doing nothing wrong. but playing a solid game in game one. Yeah, give me Florida here.
Any concern? I mean, Bobrovsky hasn't had many setbacks. As we know, Florida going into this cup final had won 11 of their last 12 playoff games. Vegas had 7 power play opportunities. That's mostly third period. It kind of got out of hand. Vegas outscored them 3-0. But what's your confidence level in whoa. Back it up. Bobrovsky to that is a tongue twister.
If you're not used to it, it can you, Bobrovsky. But you don't have to force Bobrovsky. I love that bit. Look, yeah, you bring up the power plays because again, I just don't think that you're going to see that again. And again, if you give Vegas that many opportunities, like they're too good not to take opportunities like that. But Florida, they were the rest of your team. I'm not shocked that they made a few mistakes. It did bite them, unfortunately. But game 2 here, this is red light scenario. Like again, the sirens are going off now. We're down 1 game. I think they get it together. I still think like Florida is still the better team here. I just think that again, they need to get it together. They need to put in a full game. And when they do, I think that'll shine through for a win. But certainly if they give them that many power play opportunities, it's a concern. I'm not concerned about Bobrovsky. I'm really not at this point. It's been too good for me to start doubting him off 1 game, and really not really his fault, what I would say, any of that. So yeah, give me Florida here, like I said. But this is going to be a tough series. Florida needs this one. I will say this: if Florida loses this, even if they get game 3, like Vegas is probably going to take it. They're just too opportunistic to give them a 2-0 lead in the series right now. Florida needs this for the series to keep this alive, in my opinion. I still think it could go 6 or something, but you certainly don't want to get down 2-0 to the Golden Knights. They've just proven time and again, like they'll bounce back, even if Florida pounds them at home or something in game 3. They did it to the Oilers. They did it to the Stars. They'll probably do it again. So big one for the Panthers tonight, just in terms of the outlook of the series. I think they get it though. Like I said, I'm more than willing to take the bet. That's the bigger thing. The line's moved a bit. I just think that Florida will probably tighten up. They're not going to see as many power plays, and that should, the very least, make this even a tighter game and give Florida a chance to pull it out.
Yeah, outside of penalties, like offensively, shots were right there, even in that first game, despite all the penalties that Florida took. But the number, to your point about being opportunistic, the number that jumps out to me, Vegas, 14 takeaways, in Florida, just 7. The giveaways were about even, but takeaways, +5 Vegas, and block shots 16-11, and the power play numbers, help skew those things. More so the penalty minutes and the opportunities, but Florida stayed right with them in terms of shots, hits. Florida had more hits, but the takeaway number is key. And when they got those takeaways, they capitalized. Because I haven't even looked at this yet, because I was just looking at just this game. But the championship odds aren't posted for the there should be a series line. Are you any interest in a series line on Florida? Or are you just like, it's not, just you got to pick it and stick it if you pick something before the series?
I like just playing them tonight. Like, if you're
plus 180, by the way, the number for Florida to win the series.
Yeah, it's plus 180, right? So yep. I like just playing the Panthers tonight. Again,
okay.
You can take the bigger odds, but I just don't like the Panthers' chances if they lose this game. I really don't. I'm not saying that it can't happen or something, but again, this to me is like a really pivotal game. So I'll just get to play the Panthers in the game. If I like them long term, I can certainly bet them again too. So we're kind of at a point, like with futures. I don't know. Unless you really are just, gung ho with Florida, and you just want to ride or die right till the very end, I would rather just play them in the game line tonight. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm looking at the series right now. Florida wins, certainly the series odds will go down. We can bet them again at home. Like, they'll be about even. So, which is just what I would do at this point. So no, not like a ton of interest, but if you are of that opinion, like maybe they're going to need to shake the rust out, and you think that it's going to be a longer series, and once they get home, they'll really start cooking. I could see that. But I'm a little bit too respectful of Vegas right now to be doing that, I guess. I'd rather just play this game for Florida. If we lose, we'll see. Maybe we'll go back one more time, or maybe we won't. But yeah, that's how I'm looking at it.
Looking at betting splits, Jeff said it's 60-40, about 50, close to 50-50. Money coming in on Florida tonight, but looking at the spread, Vegas puck line at 80% of the cash coming in on Vegas. Why a low total, do you think? So I'm assuming you were on the under. It was 5.5 was the line as well for game one. Why are you liking it under tonight?
I mean, I don't know if I'd say I'd like it under. Like, I mean, I'm not
okay.
going to bet. I'm not betting the total. So, I mean,
okay.
I'm just betting the game line. But I do think there's, again, like that's where I would go.
Okay.
I just think that, I mean, the reason the Vegas Golden Knights got the 4 goals, we talked about it. You know, like the Panthers just played sloppy in spots, giveaways, penalties. If those penalties don't come, there's a good chance it's just 2-2 and we go to overtime and the under hits. I think that there's better chance you see that kind of game in game 3, potentially even a little bit more dominance from the Panthers too, where they're just keeping the Golden Knights to the outside more. And, you know, we get some kind of like 3-1 game, something like that. Or maybe we just get a vintage Bobrovsky performance. I think there's a lot of outs to the under. Aiden Hill's playing out of his mind as well. So again, I talked about the goalies in game 1. You know, Florida, again, it wasn't really the goalies that blew the under. It was just a little bit of sloppy play. The rest should be off here. I would expect a little bit, you know, more disciplined performance. So yeah, nothing crazy happened in game 1 to make me think, oh, this is all of a sudden going to be a shootout every night. So
Okay.
yeah, I would just stay on the under. I mean, you're getting better odds. It's kind of the contrarian play, which I like. We almost did it in game 1. I mean, again, like it wasn't far away. It was 2-2 into the third period until Vegas broke through, and then they just got a late one. So yeah, I would stay on the under, but again, probably just going to play Florida tonight.
Okay, very good. Florida plus 120 on the money line for game 2, 8 o'clock start, just after 8 o'clock tonight, Stanley Cup final. RBC Canadian Open gets underway. It's the third one in the last couple of years since 2019. COVID halted this event a few times. So how do you ride your momentum with now going to Toronto this week? With Hovland was the pick last week. When you look at the board here, how are you breaking this one down? Your leadoff thoughts.
This is a tough week for betting. I'm not going to lie, straight up. The outright market isn't super appealing. There's players I like here, but like, you know, like last week, these players were plus 3,000, plus 4,000, even just plus 2,500. Like, I mean, those were good prices. Now the names that we kind of like here, I mean, you know, we got like a couple guys plus 2,000. Shane Lowry's up there, but he was plus 5,500 last week when I bet him. Now his number's been sliced more than in half. So this is a week where I'm probably going to go concentrated on like 1, maybe 2 names at the top, and then throw in some long shots and just pepper it a little bit. I will say this. I really like Cameron Young this week. I have not been the biggest Cameron Young, like gung-ho guy. I mean, I missed out on most of his top 5 finishes last year. I'm not going to lie. He's certainly regressed in certain parts of his game this year. The around the green game's been way more inconsistent. The putter's blown up, not in a good way, more times as well. But he's a very elite ball striker. He's very good with his wedges and short irons, Cameron Young. Like he's top 10 in proximity from like 125 to 175 yards. And when I look at this setup, you kind of look at it and you say, okay, well, it's a short setup, so the power off the tee doesn't matter. But I also feel like a player like Cameron Young, you know, he may just be able to just bomb it out there on some of these short par 4s. And the thing about Young is like clubbing down for him is actually an advantage, because when he's hitting a 3-wood, he's hitting it 300 yards, not 270, and he's still more accurate with it. So he still has an advantage off the tee. And we've seen Rory kind of do that on these shorter courses in Canada before, where, yeah, it's not a bomber's course, but he still bombs it out there with a 3-wood, and he still has shorter wedges in. And I think Cameron Young can follow that formula. He's well overdue for a win. He should be well focused on this week. He's missed 2 cuts in a row, so the stats don't look good. But all of those 2 missed cuts are purely because he just was terrible on the greens, just not good on the greens at all. So the putter is a concern, but I mean, like, putting is very variable. We've seen Cameron Young be pretty good with that club before. I just don't think he's going to have to scramble much. I do not like this number, but if you wait later in the week, I feel like we may be able to get plus 1,600, maybe plus 1,800. If you can find plus 1,600, I'd be fine with that. I would really like to get him a plus 16 at the very least, but I'm betting Cameron Young. I mean, in this field, we have so few options, and some of these guys' numbers are pretty ridiculous that you either pick someone at the top or you just kind of say, I'm not even betting anyone. I'm gonna pick Cameron Young. I may pick one other player from the top later in the week. Might be Fleetwood just because I always bet him. Fiala is interesting too. Might be Fiala, but I'm in on Cameron Young. He's overdue for a win. He's an elite iron player. He can really tear up. Like we saw him go into St. Andrews last year off 2 missed cuts and just about win the Open Championship on a soft course, no wind. And it's not going to be super windy. It's going to be soft this week. It's supposed to be a little bit of rainy too. I think it's going to be good conditions for him. So I'm in on Cameron Young, but I think it's a bit of a tougher week. We're not getting big numbers on elite names. It's highly concentrated. It's going to be a bit of a birdie fest. Weird things can happen. So not as good a board as last week, but like I said, Cameron Young right now, the one name at the top, I'm going to be invested in.
9,300 at DraftKings if you're interested in DFS. Like you said, 2 missed cuts. His short game was his struggle this past weekend. And he's
Putter.
Yeah,
plus like 4 strokes putting.
So
but, I mean, again, like the greens at the Memorial are tough. I mean, they're super burned out. You know, new venue. Everyone's seeing these greens for the first time. I think that's an advantage to a guy who's struggling with the putter a bit.
So we'll stay at the top here. You do mention in your write-up that just from a cash games DFS standpoint, we can pull up the contest here in a second.
Yeah.
Lowry and Fitzpatrick are 2 guys that if you were to build out a showdown, a DraftKings PGA lineup, that these are guys that you do have interested. 2 guys that are north of 9,000.
Absolutely, man. I mean, when you're looking at the 9,000 range, I mean, certainly you can just pay up for Rory here. Rory has shown that he's capable of, just going out and blitzing the course. I just don't really like how Rory struck the ball on Sunday. His wedge game looks a little off. It's not great for a course like this. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but I think if you're going with a balanced build, Matthew Fitzpatrick at under 10K in this field, Fitzpatrick is a really elite player. If he can spike with a putter on any course, his off the tee game is turned into one of the best. And he struck up better last week. I think him at under 10K in this field is just a good starting point. And Shane Lowry is just a very good player. He's gaining over 4 strokes on approach each of his last 2 starts. He's played well in Canada before. I really have nothing poor to say about him. I think he's another player like Cameron Young. He'll benefit from not having to scramble much this week. So Shane Lowry, Matthew Fitzpatrick, 2 guys under 10K. They give you a nice floor, but like plenty of upside too. I mean, there's guys like Rose is in there and Fleetwood. Those guys are fine, but I think the class, when you look at the value and just where their price points are at, it's Fitzpatrick and Lowry for me. So good starting point. Guys, you should be mixing into DFS lineups. And really, like betting wise, again, I like Cameron Young, but if you wanted to add a guy at the top, adding either of those names makes plenty of sense to me. Lowry is a guy I'll probably take a pretty deep look at tonight or tomorrow or something as well.
Okay. Lowry, solid week over, as Jeff wrote, over 4.5 strokes on approach for the 2nd straight event. So he's played well, finished even the last 2 weeks, PGA Championship. Michael Kim is someone else you mentioned, makes some sense. He's at 8K, 8 even. Is there a cutoff point though, when you look at the top of the board where you're like, okay, that's enough?
Oh, you mean just in terms of like
just outright odds at the top?
For outright odds. Yeah. I mean, again, it's funny because you think of this event and you think, oh, well, this is wide open. There's not that many top players here, but what we've seen at the Canadian Open, when it's been played right before the US Open, the elite players just really show up. Like last year, all of the elite players were in the top 20. Scheffler, Burns, Finau, Justin Thomas. Like there were very few long shots in the top 20 last year. So it's something to keep in mind. I think it's actually a valid point for outright betting. Like, if you have access to each way bets, or if you're just, like a guy like Michael Kim, I think he's a good top 20, top 10 target, but I'm not going to get crazy with betting outrights on long shots this week. There's going to be a couple guys, sure, because it's too much fun not to bet a guy at 100 to 1 or even 80 to 1 like Michael Kim. But I think Michael Kim is just a good placement bet this week. He's gaining strokes everywhere. He's a high end putter. He's a guy who could go out and gain 5 or 6 strokes putting on a course like this. And a shorter course favors him. He's not like a bomber off the tee, but his approaches have been solid. He's solid off the tee lately. He's just playing well. He's certainly a guy I would consider betting at 80 to 1. Like, I don't think that number is terrible or anything. I look at that range and pretty much everyone around him is kind of playing poorly. Taylor Pendrith is actually kind of interesting, but that's another play I got to look into a little bit more. He bombs it off the tee too. So if the big hitters have an advantage, he could have one. But Michael Kim, really good placement bet. Like for me, a top 20 on Michael Kim would be good. And yeah, for the DFS side, I think he brings you a really nice floor. Like he's playing well in so many areas. He's probably not gonna like, you know, implode on the greens because he's a solid putter. The off the tee game has been fine. He's not a long hitter, but he's not been overly inaccurate. The approach game has been gaining. So for DFS, he makes a lot of sense to me just as a player to slot in. And for betting, I would probably look at him more top 40, top 20 market. But yeah, a really nice player. I mean, he's struggled for multiple years and he's really got it together this year. It's kind of nice to see. So good player for DFS, good value play. I think he's what, 7,500?
8K.
8K. Yeah. I mean, a little bit more expensive than I thought, but still, I mean, he's playing well. He kind of deserves it. So
500 at the Charles Schwab Challenge, 10 under at the Wells Fargo Championship, has made north of 50% of the
It's actually funny because you bring up the outright thing. Now, the more I'm thinking about it, like I look at this range, I think Michael Kim is a far better top 20, top 40 target, but I would almost like rather take a shot with a guy like Taylor Pendrith in the outright market because I just feel like his upside is better. You know, you could even go down and look at a guy like Cameron Champ, who's probably like, yeah, he's 113,000 to 1 or plus 13,000, excuse me. But yeah, you know, like players like that, bombers, you know, if they show up with the putter on this course, because I think the winning score is going to be like 22 something under. Like again, comes back to my Cameron Young thesis that I know Cameron Young can go really low in a course like this. He's not looked that great lately, but this is a completely different setup than we've had the last few weeks. No PGA Championship rough, none of that nonsense. This is just fire in your wedges, fire off the tee, and just sink a few putts. And guys like Pendrith and Young, if they get going, they can go low.
Yeah. I've asked you this from time to time. I know it changes from event to event, course to course, but is this an event, if you don't love the outright stuff before the event starts, is it a live betting sort of event?
Yeah, I think that what you're going to see is lots of low scoring. So that will, you know, again, you may see more separation at the top this week than you did last week. But at the same time, you know, guys are going to, like Rory shot 62, not at this course because it's a different course, but it's going to be a little bit of a similar setup. It's going to be lower scoring. Rory shot 62 in the final round last year, you know, like there's going to be low scores out there. So if you get a player you like in good position, absolutely. But you know, it's not going to be like last week where we had like 30 guys within a shot or whatever after like the final round. It was great. Last week was crazy, but this week should be lower scoring. Certainly, you know, live betting opportunities, but if you're going to be live betting, I think probably you may have to get in at like in round more than between rounds. Because, you know, again, it's just not going to be as condensed in between rounds. So that's kind of my take. So maybe something like you look on during the round for guys that start to get hot for sure. Okay.
I know you threw out a couple of long shots, but per your write-up, you've got someone else in mind too that could be a sleeper.
Oh yeah, Doug Gim.
Yeah.
Doug Gim kind of fits the Michael Kim mold as well. Starting to play better. He's a really good short iron player. Doug Gim, he gained 4 strokes on approach in his last start at the Byron Nelson. His around the green game's been good lately too, which is good for him because he's had troubles in that area. But, you know, again, like Doug Gim, I don't know if I necessarily need to bet him outright, but as a top 10 play, I mean, this is a player who's had lots of top 10s, top 20s on the PGA. He's a nice top 20 play as well. And for DFS, he's 7,200. So he's a lot cheaper than Michael Kim. Like, I think he brings a lot of the same things that Michael Kim does right now, but he's a lot cheaper and he's going to be lesser owned than Michael Kim. So Doug Gim, like a real sleeper, I think, for DFS. Betting wise, again, would be more targeting him in the placement market than anything. What his chances are of coming out here and shooting 22 under are, I don't know. That's asking a lot, but certainly Gim, a player to look for placing bets. I like him for like a top 40 for Doug Gim. I don't even know what his odds are, but if you're getting like plus money there, I like that. He's playing well. He's been off a couple weeks too. Makes some sense to me there.
Gim top 40
plus 115.
Plus 115. Okay, there you go. Very good. And where's your Michael Kim minus 110? Okay, that's
Like again, I mean, I feel like the way Gim is playing, there's not much difference between those two, and I'd rather just take the better odds, obviously, there with Doug Gim.
Okay. All righty. There's your RBC Canadian Open preview. Again, Jeff's got an article up, dknation.draftkings.com. Are you consuming the NBA Finals? We can mix in a quick NBA Finals thought before we go.
I mean, I'm consuming everything all the time.
Yeah.
Flash, but yeah, no, I mean, like, game 2. I mean, it's really interesting. This Miami Heat team is they're just, everyone wants to just write them off. And like, I get why, but
yeah, no one wants to write off the Panthers. Like, people respecting how good they are, but when it comes to the basketball, they want to write off the Miami Heat.
Yeah, no, I know.
I know people love Butler, but the team collectively, I think everyone likes Butler. But people keep saying, well, there's only so much he can do. But every time I watch them, a role player explodes.
That's the thing. Like, it really, like, it has, this last run, it really hasn't been about Jimmy Butler. It's kind of interesting. So, I mean, look, they're going back to Miami. I don't know. This feels like it feels like a really good number you're getting on Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be the guy who just keeps betting against the Heat, but yeah, I feel like you have to go back to the Nuggets here, don't you? I mean, minus 135. I think people would have been drooling over this line at the start of it. The Heat got their game in Denver for sure, but I mean, I still think you look at the bigger picture, Denver's a better team. I think it eventually wins out. So I would be inclined just to go back to the Nuggets here. I think that too, I haven't looked at the splits for this or anything. I don't know if you have them up, but I wouldn't be shocked if the public was kind of getting on the Heat money line here at plus money.
Let's see. Mostly Denver right now.
Okay.
Denver at minus 135 at DraftKings. But the people, the spread, I think people like Miami.
That's interesting because the spread's only 2.5.
Yeah. Well, no, I take it back. Spreads, people are on Denver.
Okay.
65% of the bets, Denver. Money line, Denver getting a lot of love on the money line, as I said.
Is the handle about equal or?
No, it's 65, 93% of the dollars on Denver.
Okay. So yeah, it kind of looks like public, maybe sharps as well. I mean, it makes sense to me. Jokic only had 4 assists, playoff low this year for Jokic. So is Michael Porter Jr. get out of his slump? That's what I think people have been waiting for that. I think a lot of people came back on Porter after a bad shooting night in game 1, was 2 of 8 overall, 1 of 6 from 3. He hasn't been great. You think that comes back, but when you go on the road, supporting cast guys, role players, they play better at home, not on the road. Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I think one way to look at this game would be, if you like Denver to win, I would just play for a big game with Jokic. You mentioned he only had 4 assists. And you mentioned the role player thing. I think that's actually a good point, a valid point. Like, I think if Denver gets it done, Jokic has a big game every game, but I think you could have a monster game. So you could maybe look at some alternate lines, triple double props to pair with him, something like that. That's probably where I would be thinking.
Points, rebounds, assists, 50.5. I mean, feels low. Feels like an overreaction to the low assist total last game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think if the one thing I feel good about in game 3 is Nikola Jokic showing up. And like, not that he doesn't ever show up, but like
Right.
really showing, like carrying the team. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to let this team lose, or I'm not going to let the Heat like run away, kind of thing like that. That's what I feel the most confident about anyways. But yeah, it's super interesting. Like you said, the Heat aren't getting near enough as much credit as the Panthers, and maybe they're the 8th seed people should be jumping on. I don't know, but
Okay.
I think this game's going to tell us a lot about both teams, to be honest. How elite is Denver? Because I think elite teams would rise up here and find a way to win. And how good is Miami? Because if Miami can hold off Denver for 2 games in a row, man, like that is you may just want to bet them to win the series at that point. Like,
Jokic has cleared, the conference semifinal against, so the first round, the quarterfinal against Minnesota, he didn't clear this, but going back to that Phoenix series, he has cleared this with ease. There was a game against the Lakers. He had 24, 6, and 8, but he's cleared that number twice, the 50 and a half. He's cleared twice in this NBA Finals. Yeah, 50 and a half. It might be just, that's giving the Heat some respect for what they're doing on defense.
Yeah, I like Jokic. I do think it's going to be a close game, though. That's the one thing. Like, I don't think it's going to be anyone's winning by like, 10 or more or anything like that. But
okay,
that's my only take on it. Nothing hard.
All right.
Like Jokic tonight. Take the overs. That's my only call.
That's Wednesday, so there will be time for our basketball analysis.
Right. Yeah. But I'm already thinking, because it's golf. It's like Tuesday already, but it's actually because I've already done so much golf content. But yeah, it's still Monday. We have like 4 days. There's 4 days between every NBA game now. So
Cup final game 2 tonight. Jeff likes Florida, and we've got the NBA Finals resuming on Wednesday. Thanks to Eamon and Daniel for getting us up and running behind the scenes. For Jeff Ulrich, Brendan Glasheen, you all have a great night. Again, this show returns. We're here Monday through Friday this week after the 4 o'clock Eastern Madden Sim. And your day starts tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern with The Sweat. You have a great rest of your Monday. See you tomorrow.